Hey there! My name is Corinne O'Flynn, and you're listening to the Calm Entrepreneur Podcast. I am a USA Today bestselling author, nonprofit executive, and organizing nerd with over 20 years' experience running my own small businesses. I teach entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, and small business owners like you how to organize your business, find more time, and deepen your alignment practice to experience more calm and confidence every single day. If you're looking for that intersection between practical business advice and spiritual goodness, then you're in the right place. So sit back, relax, and let's dive into this week's episode of the Calm Entrepreneur Podcast. Welcome to the Calm Entrepreneur Podcast. I'm your host, Corinne O'Flynn, and this is episode 11. So this week's episode is about creating a lead magnet that works for you and your business. But the conversation that brought this around was actually not about lead magnets, but it was about workflows. And a lot of times the people that I work with and other entrepreneurs often struggle with the concept of how to create a workflow. And because it isn't necessarily a straightforward thing. And if you start at the beginning of your workflow while developing the actual workflow itself, a lot of times you're going to find yourself looping because when you don't have the entire picture laid out in front of you, our brains want to start at the beginning, but the answer is actually the opposite. You start at the end. So what do I mean by that? Well, the best way to illustrate that for you is to explain the process through a specific example. And so I have chosen how to create a lead magnet that works for you and your business. And we're going to walk through how to use the lead magnet as an example for creating a workflow that you can continue to iterate. And then you don't have to keep recreating the wheel on how the system has to work. So to get started, what is lead magnet, right? Hopefully, if you are already an entrepreneur in your business, you are already using lead magnets. It's a very common thing. And I think that even if you are just a person out in the world consuming from other businesses, you've experienced the lead magnet. A lead magnet can be anything that you are given. It's a gift that you were given by the business in exchange for you giving them your email address. It's that simple. It can be anything from coupons to workbooks and white papers, Facebook group access, challenges, free trials. It can be a guide. It could be a checklist. It could be a cheat sheet. It could be a planner. It could be a resource list. It could be a template. It can be a spreadsheet. It could be a newsletter. It could be a quiz. It could be anything under the sun that you can possibly think of that you can make deliverable in some way can be made deliverable as a lead magnet. So the purpose of a lead magnet is that it needs to serve your business, right? It needs to make sure that it brings you leads into your business that are interested in the products and services that you sell. So you keep that in mind when you're developing what it is you're going to make into your lead magnet. And it also has to serve your customer, right? It has to help you develop that know, like, and trust factor or continue to enhance and reinforce the know, like, and trust factor with your audience to help you continue to connect with them so that they know that you're the one that can solve these problems for them. Right? So it acts as a relationship starter or a relationship enhancer, and it allows you to continue to provide value in the form of solutions to problems that you know that they have because you are the person who can solve their problems, right? And once you successfully solve a problem, especially if you could do it through a free lead magnet, they're going to come back to you for the next problem that they have in this vertical, right? That's the goal. That's what we hope for. What makes a lead magnet a good lead magnet? And there's probably 1,000 answers to these questions, but I'm gonna kind of hone in on like my top 5. And the first one is it solves a single problem. And I think that one of the issues that we have, especially when we're new in our business, is that we throw the kitchen sink at our customers. We're like, no, if you have this problem, you need this 400-page book to solve the entire problem. When we forget that we don't want to do that, first of all, because we want to sell our products and services and our coaching and our expertise and our insight and all those things that we provide in a value. But you don't want to overwhelm the person who has the problem, right? So you need to make sure that you hone it down into a single problem that you're solving. And it needs to be a quick fix. It needs to be something that they can actually implement easily and quickly, right? And the process of doing this is done in your voice. Like you share perhaps your story of how this problem was your problem back in the day. And now you solved this problem. And now here's the solution. And you want this person to have the same feeling of success that you had when you solved this problem for yourself. So it makes your relationship closer with your new subscriber by making you more relatable and by connecting to their issue because you're telling them that, yeah, I know, I got you. I've been there. I've gotten through this. Let me show you how, right? And the next thing that's important about your lead magnet is that it needs to be easy to understand. It needs to be intuitive. It needs to be something that they should not need further directions to navigate when they download it. So if they're downloading a printable checklist, the checklist needs to be completely easy to understand at a glance, right? You don't want to make more problems for them. But the other side of that is if somebody is in your sphere and they are operating in the place where your zone of genius can solve their problems, chances are they have additional problems that you can solve. So a lead magnet could potentially say, okay, well, now that you've downloaded this checklist and you're solving this issue that you're having right now, perhaps you have this issue next. And you could lead them into the next solution that you have, which could be a paid product or a paid course or coaching or whatever it is. And I want to say that not everybody is at that stage in their business where this is doable yet. And for myself, with this business, the Calm Entrepreneur that I've just recently launched in the last several months, that's me, right? I've been in this place before, but I'm not now with this business. I don't have my coaching and my courses live yet. So that's where the list building actually comes into play. It is your email list will be the place where when it's time to share the word about your new coaching or your new boot camp or the quiz or the class or the whatever it is that you're sharing down the road that doesn't exist yet, because you have your lead magnet, you're getting people on your newsletter list who are craving the kinds of solutions that you provide. Well, when they're ready and when you are ready to go, you shoot them an email and you begin the conversation, leading them on the journey to purchasing the thing that you're sharing. So it's kind of like a magic. So if you're at a place where you have that second step, third step solution to the potential problems that your subscriber might be having, you would include those at the back of your lead magnet. But if you don't, again, don't despair. You still want to provide your lead magnet because you can use your email list to sell them that thing down the road. So that means that you want to make sure that you tie your freebie back to the content that belongs to your business, right? You don't want to share recipes if what you're providing is, organizing. It's one of those things where, and I remember I joined a class where it was a fitness class and it was about a specific kind of exercise. And one of the things that I got was a cookbook, but there was nothing about this person that had a nutrition background or anything like that. And it was actually, it kind of felt like this, wow, weird thing that like, okay, well, she has it. So I took it, but I was like, that really didn't fit with the business. And it's not something that I think of when I think of her. And it kind of felt like this one-off that didn't really have a place. So I think that it's important that you make sure that when you're brainstorming the list of things that you want to create as your list magnet or your lead magnet, that you keep it under the umbrella of the solutions that you're providing, of the services that you're providing to your clients, right? Even if you don't have that thing available just yet, you know where you're going in your entrepreneur journey, at least hopefully in some vast field of some vertical. So try to maintain things that stay in that same vertical, because if you go outside that box, then you start to confuse people and then you start to muddy the message and you dilute the power of the things that you're doing, all around. So how do you figure out what to make for your lead magnet? So the easiest answer is think about your ideal client, right? We in business land we talk about the ICA, the ideal customer avatar. And if you've ever done those kinds of exercises, you have this individual person who personifies all the things that your company solves. This person has every single one of the problems that I could ever hope to serve. And so when you think of this ideal client, this potential person who's going to be buying every single thing that you offer at any point in the future, what are the problems that they have? Make a list of all of the struggles, all the pain points, all the worries, all the frustrations, every single thing that you can think of. Whether or not you actually provide that solution now, that doesn't matter. Go ahead and make a list of every single thing that you can think of that the person who is buying your class is struggling with. Remember that your lead magnet needs to be easily consumed, right? So we're not sending them off with a 300-page booklet. So brainstorm a whole list of problems and then pick a couple of them, right? And then try to hone in on one that feels like a place where you can have a quick solution. And then break that problem down into its component problems, because typically we go a little bit too broad when it comes to the thing that we're going to brainstorm. Break it down, break it down, break it down into smaller pieces until you discover a core solution, a core problem that can be provided with a quick fix and big impact. Okay. So for me, in this episode, if you're a listener of my episode, I'm going to assume that you don't know how to create a lead magnet. So the list of my quick brainstorm is like, I don't know how to create a lead magnet. I don't know where to start. I don't know how to create a pretty printable when I do have my solution. I don't know how to deliver the lead magnet. Like, I don't know what the technical setup is of all those things. And what do you mean when you talk about a landing page? What do you mean opt-in page? So these are potential questions that somebody who is providing, for whom I'm providing my lead magnet to. How meta is that? I'm doing a podcast about how to create a lead magnet to solve the problem for the lead magnet person. And when you go to my show notes, you'll be able to download my checklist on how to create a lead magnet. So you'll get my lead magnet on making lead magnets. So if my ideal client is struggling with how to make a lead magnet, and not only how to make a lead magnet, but where to start, how to set it up, how to create it, how to make it look good, and what to do with the tech side of things, how would you begin to solve this problem? So for me, we know now that this is specific to my business, right? So here are some questions that you can ask in your business. Have I identified one problem, right? Have I identified a solution that can be delivered in a single page or double page or 3-page max? Like, you want it to be quick. It needs to be something that they can consume in like half an hour. It doesn't need to be a 4-hour solution. For the lead magnet, it needs to be a quick win, right? Once you've identified that one problem and then that one quick solution that you can provide, give them the solution. So you have to figure out a way that you're going to outline this answer to them. Does it need to be a checklist like I'm going to provide to you with this lead magnet? Is it going to be a template that they can fill out? Is it going to be a spreadsheet that they can use that'll help them track a workflow? Whatever it is, you need to make sure that the solution, when given to them, when they open it up, it is the answer that they need. So you have to make it as simple as possible. And if during the creation process where you're writing the copy for your lead magnet and you're putting together your checklist and you discover like, wow, this thing is getting long. It's like, it's too many things. I'm going to suggest that you have more than one problem being solved in there and that you can break it down even further. So continue to do that until you have something quick, right? You want to make sure that it's quick and has an impact. And this is good for you too, because then it takes that much less time to actually create the lead magnet. You don't want to be spending, a month creating a document that is so meaty and so heavy that when it comes to being a lead magnet, no one's ever going to actually do the work of reading through it, right? You want to make this quick and easy. And when you do that, when you're able to provide them with a nice, quick solution, it's only going to endear you to your audience even more because they understand that you understand them. They see it. You're not wasting their time. You're getting right to the point and you're providing value and you did what you said you were going to do, right? You said, I've got you. And then you showed them how you did. And it's all just wonderful. So what does this look like in practice, right? So the first part of this is we've all done this. We have all, if we're using the internet these days, we have all experienced being on the customer side of receiving a lead magnet, right? So let's walk through that. So you hear about a lead magnet, you hear about an ad, you hear about some deal that is mentioned on a podcast, or while browsing the website, you get a pop up and something tells you that there's something free that you can get in exchange for your email. So the person, you go to the URL and arrive at a landing page. This is going to be an opt-in page. This is where you're going to be collecting the email addresses. On this page, you're going to have an image of your lead magnet. You're going to use the same kind of language that mirrors the ad copy or the social media post or the podcast mention that brought the person here, so that when they arrive, they recognize that they're in the right place. And as soon as they arrive, oh, look, there's this lovely little email form for them to fill out with their name and their email address to opt into your marketing list. So there are many discussions about what information you should collect on these forms. And I think that there are arguments for all of them and against all of them. So first name and email, first name and last name and email, or just the email address. And I'm going to give you my opinion on this as somebody who has a rather large email list for my author business, which is completely separate from all of this. I'm starting from scratch with my new business, right? So I'm in the same boat with a lot of new people here. But I have a lot of experience with list building. I have, tens of thousands of people on my email list for my author business. And when I request email addresses, I ask for the first name and the email address. And I can hear a lot of people like, but Corinne, aren't you afraid that they're going to leave if you make them fill in more information than just their email address? Isn't it simpler? Isn't it quicker? Won't you get more people to opt in if all you ask for is an email address? And I said, yeah, maybe, but I don't know that that's necessarily a good thing, right? For two reasons. One, if they want to be on my list, they should be willing to share their information. And I'm only asking for their first name so that I can talk to them in the emails, right? And if giving me their name is a deal breaker, then maybe they aren't going to be somebody who wants to interact with me long term, right? Because, there's a trust factor there as well. But the other side of that is I want to make it a little bit difficult. I want to make you to do the thing that you need to do in order to get on to my email list, because you want to make sure that the people on your list want to be there, right? You're paying for these emails on your list. And as your list grows and grows and grows, it gets quite expensive to keep a rather large email list. So you don't want to just load it up with volume for the sake of having a nice chunky list. You want to make sure that it's, you're doing the best to attract the best quality subscribers at every stage in this process. So I'm not going to suggest that you make them jump through hoops. Like, I don't think you should sacrifice anything for getting that person on your email list, but I do advocate for asking at least for their first name. So there you have it. That's my stake in the ground. So they add their email list to the box, and then they handle the double opt-in process that you're definitely using, because we're moving into a GDPR and CCCA compliant world, which is the legal pieces that govern privacy laws. We have to make sure that that person either checks the box that says yes, or they're going to go to their email and click the opt-in confirmation to subscribe. They must be made aware that they're getting on a marketing email list. You don't want to play the game where you're, playing fast and loose with those rules, because, is Big Brother watching you? Probably not. But if the time comes when somebody does report that you haven't done that, or that you don't have a way to unsubscribe or do all those things that are required for GDPR and the new rules out of California, you don't want to get in trouble with those kinds of things. So they've opted in and they've clicked the double opt-in in whatever way that's going to happen. And then they get an email sent from your automation sequence into their inbox. And that first email says, oh my gosh, thank you so much. It's so good to have you. Here is the link that I promised. And they click on that link, and then they are bounced into outer space where they will then land in a new window on their computer with your PDF or your spreadsheet or whatever it was that you promised them, right? And that's the process. So how do you set this up as the business? Like, what does that look like? And here's where it's important that you think about it backward, right? So you walk through what your customer is going to experience, what you need for them to have happen on the front end, and then you start at the end and you work backward, right? And so before we begin walking through that process, I want you to keep this in mind. Number one, don't overthink it. Don't overthink it. Don't overthink it. You need to make this as simple as possible. And I say this as somebody who I used to do web development and I used to have web design clients. And I think that there's this sense that if you don't know how to do it, you assume it's super duper complicated. And therefore you kind of pull away and say, I'm just going to put that off till tomorrow. And it really doesn't need to be that way. There are so many different ways to do this really, really simply. You don't necessarily have to do it like the bells and whistles on the first go. So release that from your brain. And we are going to go through this process without overthinking it. And we're going to use the KISS principle, right? Which is keep it simple, silly. And I'm not going to use the other word that some people use for that second S. It's keep it simple, silly. Okay. So step number one, decide on the lead magnet that you're going to create. So for our example, let's just say that we're going to do a PDF printable, a checklist or a template, something 1-2 pages max, right? Map it out, whether that be, pulling out some graph paper, writing it on a whiteboard, using a Google Doc or a Word or whatever it is. Map out what you want this thing to contain. You don't necessarily have to worry about what it's going to look like at this point because you want to make sure that you get the content there. So especially if it's a checklist, just make your list. Don't worry about putting boxes in your Google Doc or in your Word doc. Because what you're going to do after you have all the copy is you're going to bring all of this text over to Canva. And whether or not you have a Canva paid account or free account, you can do all of these things for free. And you're going to go to Canva and you're going to search for templates. There are gazillions of pre-made templates that exist in Canva. And you can find one that kind of feels like your flavor and you can choose it. And you're going to click on it and it's going to land on your page. And then you're going to, replace the information in there with your information. You can tweak the colors. You can do all kinds of things. And what's interesting is as I am sharing this how-to with you that I'm going to give to you in my free lead magnet with the episode show notes, which will be found at CorinneO'Flynn.com/episode 11. And that's the word episode and the digits 11. As you are going through my checklist to prepare your lead magnet, I just told you, hey, you should pop on over to Canva. Well, if I were a smart business person, I may have a class on how to do Canva templates that I make available to you, like says, hey, if you're interested in learning more about Canva, click here. And maybe that's a paid class that I've got. It isn't, but maybe I should do that. But that would be where we talk about like that next level problem, right? So here I am giving you this checklist, which is a solution to your lead magnet creation problem. But in the process, you need to learn how to use Canva, right? Or something like it, whether that be Photoshop or Illustrator or whatever. But Canva is the easiest. It's the low hanging fruit. So if I had a Canva offer, I could say, hey, if you're stuck on Canva, click here. And that could send you into a paid program that I've got, maybe a little spotlight course on how to do Canva. So that's, a little aside on that next level problem solving that you should be thinking about in your business, because the people who are using your lead magnet is designed under the umbrella through which you're serving them everything. So a Canva tutorial would actually be a smart thing to offer to someone who is going to be using my How to Make a Lead Magnet freebie. Okay, back to the list. So you've gone to Canva and you've created your fabulous template and you've proofread it and it's all fabulous and it matches your brand colors and it's got your fonts and all of your stuff on it. Well, now you have to decide where you're going to store this file, right? So are you going to use AWS, Amazon Web Services S3, or are you going to use like your website or Google Drive or Dropbox or whatever? However you decide that you're going to deliver this, where you're going to store this file so that you can deliver it, you're going to upload it to that place and name it something, that you'll be able to find it again. And then you're going to copy that link, right? You're going to copy the link that's directly to this item. Now we have to do the automated piece of this. So you go into your email service. This is now step 6. You go into your email list service and you create a brand new list that's just for this lead magnet. So anybody who subscribes to this list through your opt-in form, right, is going to drop into this new list, and that's going to trigger a welcome sequence, an automated email sequence that's going to be sent out to them. That's going to send them that email that says, hey. So you create a new email list, and then you create an email automation sequence, a welcome sequence. It can have one email, it can have 2 emails in it. But that very first email says, hi, welcome. It's got all of your branding. Here, as promised, is the link to the download. So you paste that link in there. Once you have the list created and you have your automation sequence created, then you go back to your website and you create the landing page, because you can't really create the landing page until you have the list, right? So the list comes first. If your email service integrates with web forms, then you will just embed the web form into your new landing page. If they don't, then you're going to have to use something like Zapier. But there's ways to solve that problem. So you connect your landing page email opt-in form to your email list service that subscribes them to the list that you just created. And then you create the landing page link, right? You connect it all so that the landing page link is now, it has a slug. And a slug, for those who don't know the term, if I tell you to go to my website and go to my show notes page for this podcast episode, it's CorinneO'Flynn.com/episode 11. The slug is /episode 11. When I create my page in my website, the system that I created, where I use WordPress, the system that I creates a huge long name. It's based on the title of the page. And I change that so that the slug is episode 11. So all you have to do is type in that to get where you need to go. So you need to have a landing page link with a memorable enough slug that you can speak it, I think, especially if you're doing podcasting or something like that, or live video. And once it's all in place, you need to test it. So you test it and you test it and you test it. And once you've tested it 2 or 3 times and you know that everything works and you keep getting your emails and you're opting in, and then you go into your email service and you see that you are your brand new subscriber and you're the only person on this list, that's it. Now you're ready for prime time. So then after you have it all 10 steps, right, which is decide on the lead magnet, map it out, create it in, I suggest in Canva. So create it in Canva, decide where you're going to store it, upload it and get the link, create a new email list, create an email automation for that list, then create the landing page with the embedded form, link it all up, get a slug, and then test it. Once you have done those 10 steps, now you're out in the world and you're sharing it. You have to decide what you're going to do. So you're going to craft some ad copy. You're going to put some image posts together for social media. You're going to do some video scripts, whatever it is that you're going to use as the vehicle to get this out, whether that be on Instagram Reels or stories or TikTok or, really anything under the sun. You craft all of that marketing copy and create those videos and just have yourself prepared for what you're going to do. And now you know what you're going to do. So when it's time to advertise your lead magnet, the copy should go all the way back to the very first things that we talked about, which is the single problem. Before you made a list of all those things, you thought about what are the pain points? What are the struggles? What are the things that you're trying to solve for your potential customer? And those are the things that you're going to include in your ad copy. So when you see the person, so when that person sees your ad, you're speaking right to them, and when you are out in the world, after listening to this episode, I want you to pay really close attention to the ads that you do see, because ads that you respond to are going to give you a clue as to effective ways to market things like your lead magnet. Like, how often Do you see somebody like for me, I follow a lot of coaches and a lot of advertising and marketing and, entrepreneur B2B kind of solution people. And very often I get like a video will pop up and be like, have you ever tried to, create a lead magnet and you didn't know how to do a workflow would be an example of mine. For example, if I was going to sell you this lead magnet for free. So this episode lead magnet. So that's really all it is. And so I use this example of creating a lead magnet as a way to illustrate how a workflow process is designed, right? You have to first start off with the customer's journey, right? So the customer hears about the thing, they go to the website, and then they have this experience. They go through these steps. And in order to make those steps happen, the process is then backward for how you create it. I think it's really easy to get caught up in and lost in the process of organizing workflows for your business. And it's one of those things where until you really think about the value of a workflow, you don't really understand how much time you're spending recreating the wheel. If every single time you create a lead magnet for your business, you are doing it on the fly, I promise you, a workflow is going to save you time and energy and even just brain power. You don't want to have to think about how this is done every single time you do it, especially if you're creating lots and lots of lead magnets. Like when I first launched my podcast, I think it's my first 5 episodes, perhaps my first 6. Each one of those episodes is on a specific topic, and each one of those episodes had their own lead magnet that came with them. And I did that because I'm launching a new business. I'm launching a new podcast. I'm trying to generate leads. So if your business is new, or if you're launching a new program, you're going to find yourself in this example, creating a lot of lead magnets. You're going to need a workflow. And if you have a workflow in place, that does 2 things. Number 1, it lightens the load for you. It keeps the thinking down to a minimum as far as what has to happen and what has to happen next. But it also makes this something that you can hand off to somebody when the time comes. If you have an assistant, or if you're hoping down the road one day to hire an assistant and take on some of these things for you, if you have these workflows in place, those workflows can then become SOPs. They can become standard operating procedures that you can record and you can cement into, this is how we do it. And those things can then be handed off to somebody else who then knows exactly what's expected and in what order and how things are done. So I hope this made sense. I hope that my example of the lead magnet did not get us too far into the weeds on how to create it, but I wanted to illustrate the value of a workflow and the process that I use to create one. So the short answer is workflows happen backward, but they only work when you know how it works forward. So yeah, there's my long story about workflows. I hope this episode was valuable to you as far as creating a workflow. But if you are interested in learning how to do lead magnets and you're interested in my workflow for creating a lead magnet, you can download my workflow of lead magnet creation by going to the show notes, which is at CorinneO'Flynn.com/episode 11. And that's the word episode and the digits 11. So thank you for listening, and I'll catch you next time. Thanks. Remember, part of being a calm entrepreneur is developing the systems, habits, and know-how that lets you know that you are the one in the driver's seat. You get to choose how you run your business, and you get to choose how you work. So you got this. I hope you enjoyed listening to this episode of the Calm Entrepreneur Podcast. I'm Corinne O'Flynn, and if this episode was valuable to you, please head on over and rate and review wherever you consume your podcasts. Please subscribe so you'll never miss an episode. New episodes go out each week on Tuesdays, and I look forward to hanging with you again. This is Corinne signing off. Have an excellent day.